we're live, folks. Back again. This is your host of Lit Literature, JP, aka the Demon, and I know we're not actually live, but I'm saying we're live.
Ayo!
Censorship.
So
We gotta start the episode over now.
Nope. We get to
'Cause we never swear.
Finally discuss after laboriously
Right.
reading,
Yes.
laborfully reading
6 weeks.
Laboriously.
6 weeks of
6
reading.
weeks. That's
We
right.
never swear.
6 weeks. We get to finally discuss the end, the entire, but mostly part 5, but the end of Words of Radiance. You're saying Rhythm of War. That's right. So
The Way of Kings.
right. So we do actually have a full circle now, thanks to Manny and Captain joining us digitally, and not Manny not coming here because I don't fucking like it when he's here anymore.
I know.
that asshole.
Oh my god.
Wow.
Makes us all shoulder to shoulder.
I'm just joking, Manny. Take
cold
it easy.
lunch.
Anyway,
I like it better when you're here, Manny.
I do
Because
too,
I actually like you,
Thanks,
unlike
Brad.
Jeff.
Thank you, Brad.
Just saying.
I love Manny. So anyway, we do get to go round circle though, because we have on our screen. I know you can't see it because you see them in the corners, but for us, Manny and Captain are just right here in front of us on the other side of the table. So let's go ahead and do this circle.
I'll start. Cherry, Josh.
Brett, the director.
Ben the Hitman.
Manny.
Him the dream.
He's so easy and
And
So dreamy.
guys, as you know, I'm Andrew the Captain, and I do apologize for our last book. I was actually on a humongous Fire Moss binge, and I've just been brain dead for like the last 3 months of my life. Just chewing Fire Moss and selling all my worldly possessions, getting into some really low places in my life, but I'm back and I'm ready to review the end of Rhythm of War.
So wait, I don't want
You're not in
this.
prison
I don't want
right
this
now?
to finish for us because I think this won't end well for Andrew.
Oh no!
Can we just?
Andrew,
Yeah,
was that binge just your little your fond farewell to Teft?
yeah.
Oh man,
In honor.
it
Spoilers.
sucks. Never has being right felt so terrible.
I know.
I feel so awful. It sucked.
So
Oh, we gotta pull that up because we had the death.
Oh no, it's in the episode.
Yeah.
So in case you guys didn't catch last episode, which would be totally crazy.
Yeah, in which case
because
leave. 'cause
This
you're
is
not a real
part
fan.
5. Yeah, this is part 5. So if you haven't gotten to part 5, woo, you better watch out. But end of last episode, I didn't make it a clip. I actually
Just added it to the
edited
end.
it into the end of the next episode because it was so
Nice,
on
Steven.
point that I had to have it in there. So we actually do 2 cheerses in the end of, I think it's this episode before last, one of those episodes. I think it's last episode.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And you just added in that clip where he talked about Teft.
and we actually say in the end, we're like, oh, it's gonna be a clip.
Yeah,
It'll
good
be
thing it's
great.
just a clip.
And I'm like, no. I had just finished the book when I was editing it, and I'm like, I'm sorry, this has to go in now.
And I hadn't finished the book yet, so
damn.
Jeff was just like, oh yeah, the discussion was really good. So
we
he's like
added
trying
that.
not to let me know why he's adding it. Oh no, it was just really good discussion.
Awesome.
So we're all agreed it's Andros's fault that
Yes.
he died.
Yes.
It's the captain's
No,
fault.
I
Captain
was a
called it
soothsayer.
out.
Oh no!
If a tree
So,
falls
I
in the
cursed
forest.
Yeah.
Let's hold off diving super deep into Teft yet, only because we should
have to
probably
cheers.
start and
yeah.
by cheersing. Yeah.
All right, cheers.
So, hey guys, to the end
Cheers.
of wait, we have to say something before the cheers. Come on.
we say it a lot after.
Oh, that's true. That's true. All right, to Rhythm of War.
To Teft.
And we're back.
Live.
Yes. Not live. We're just back.
Idiot.
Okay, so we left off introducing ourselves, not that you don't know us, and also talking about Teft. We will talk deeply about Teft as we get to his point, but we should start with the interludes.
Yes.
And I have to tell you guys, my entire perception of this part was pretty much right on. I don't know that you felt this way. Let's find out. But because I want to hear how you all felt with this part. But we said there was a
I
lot
don't know
of
about you
setup.
guys, but my entire idea is what was going to happen actually happened. So
I was pretty much perfect. What about you guys?
Definitely not perfect. I think the Brett bets will tell that I'm going to be the loser by the end of it. So
think?
I would
I don't
say
remember.
definitely not perfect. However, there was one thing I was right about, at least.
Jeff, we're all perfect, not just you, man.
Didn't I just say I wasn't perfect? Anyway.
Man, he never passes up an opportunity to call himself perfect. So.
So,
A true Yasna through
I know.
and through.
That or Yasna. You're right. Yeah.
A true Yasna.
I will say, though, I went into this worried because in part 4, it felt like a lot of setup. Mm-hmm. And in my opinion, the way that I interpreted part 5 as I was reading it, I essentially had anxiety the whole freaking time.
Yeah.
Is exactly what I expected. Part 5 was going to be crazy. Mm-hmm. And in my opinion, it was. I don't know if you all felt that way, maybe not, but I was like legitimately on the tip. Like I was worried about Teft, then that happened. I was worried about Kaladin constantly. I was worried about pretty much all the characters because I just had no idea where Sanderson was going to take this. I was worried about Taravangian. I was worried about Zeth. I was worried about Dalinar. I was legitimately, I'm like, I think I have anxiety now thanks to the part 5 of this fucking book.
Yeah.
I feel that the way that the pacing of the entire book stayed surprising to me, very consistent through to the end. I don't feel that towards the end you got this like giant battle wrap up that you've gotten in a lot of the other books.
Just anxiety.
Which was not that it was anything worse. And it still, even through like the very end of the book, I feel like in terms of like battle descriptions and like fight scenes, still probably like the first beginning of the book where Kaladin's fighting Leshwi up in the skies were like the most, and then the first fight with the Pursuer were almost like the most kind of like battle described events or action packed events of the book. The end had some, I feel like they did have some action scenes, but I feel like they were a lot quicker and very subtle. Like the very kind of last fight with the Punisher, it was much shorter than Punisher. Gosh,
The Punisher.
was very.
I think you guys mean the defeated.
The defeated was very much quicker than what we've seen in
That
it.
little punk ass bitch.
So I felt like it was different, and I think that the pacing matched the rest of the book, but also like it wasn't as like epic and grandiose as some of the other ones. But I still think it was.
What are you talking
was
about?
in my mouth.
Epic. It wasn't like the battle scene like that I'm kind of used to finish.
Well, I feel like what maybe you're feeling is that I felt like the ending was a little bit more about, because the whole thing has been kind of like dealing with a lot of internal struggle. We've been talking about like mental, disorders or diseases or pain and stuff like that. And I feel like the end was more a cerebral battle more so than an actual action-packed battle. And I feel like it just kind of stayed very cerebral throughout the whole book a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's why I feel like a lot of us feel like it was intense, but it's not intense in the way that you're
Yeah,
used to.
I know what you're
where
saying.
they're doing
Not
a
like
bunch
the,
of battle descriptions and
And
stuff
I don't
like
think
that.
it was anything bad.
Yeah.
It was
Different.
just it felt true to the rest of the book, which was, I think the rest of the book was a bit of a step off from what we've seen in a lot of the other books.
For sure.
It was like focused on the internal mental battles in a lot of ways. Although I got to tell you, the fight scenes with the defeated
With the defeated.
Kaladin yelling.
Well, I think also too, instead of the like octane riding roller coaster fight scenes we'd seen in the other ones, this felt way more almost everything as a chess match.
Yes.
It was just like
Yeah.
oh, he's got 3 bodies, getting to that 4th one, and then even the whole thing with Navani and
the mental chess game.
Yeah.
Like,
where
completely,
it's just like constantly,
Yeah.
which lends itself to a different type of an action-packed ending, different type of just like thrill ride at the end. It wasn't this like roller coaster ride. It was definitely more of a like, oh my gosh, this is like there's like 3 moves left. We know something's gonna have to happen in these next 3 moves.
Yeah.
Who's gonna play it back?
Yeah, it's almost, I feel like almost a little bit like we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but since it's on topic, I feel like almost the like last little bit of the book was almost as if we were watching the chess pieces the whole time, and we got a second to pull back and actually watch the chess players have to, because it's almost like we got to actually see Cultivation sit there and think about some of the moves she's been playing over a very long time, and unfortunately we also got to see her potentially get set up and not realize it yet. I thought the ending was just so good. I loved this whole book. I know it definitely had less action-packed stuff, but it has a lot of the stuff that I like, which is a lot of the kind of, more cerebral stuff. I keep using that word.
Yeah, I have to agree with you guys. This book, the whole book, not just this last part, has been slower, but the character enrichment and what we see them, how they develop, and like all these battles, it's on a much smaller scale than has been in the other books.
Yeah.
And so it's just like one-on-one, or even just one on yourself trying to defeat your inner demons. And so while not as impactful or as flashy as some of the other, like all the meaning and like there's so much important stuff that's happening right now in this final chapter, even if it's not as big, and it's kind of slower, but it still has that intensity to it.
The ending also kind of felt like it was dual purpose in the sense that in all the other books, I feel like even though you obviously know the story's going to continue and you have something to look forward to, I don't feel like any of the other books, I feel like the other books were much more satisfying in the sense that it didn't leave us on an important point. Like the whole thing with Dalinar, like how that whole thing is going to turn out is really, really cliffhangery as opposed compared to any other ending that I can think of, unless I'm remembering them incorrectly. But that seems more like, okay, I'm just going to stop this book at the end of a chapter.
It almost feels like this book was like halfway through, like a combination of
combined
book 4 and 5.
Yeah.
And this is just halfway through that book, and book 5 just could be the entire like climax.
Yeah.
Like,
dude, book 5 could be done in 10 days. That's what I was gonna say.
That's what I thought.
Oh my god!
I feel like Musings of L or whatever. I feel like Musings of L are basically like the first day of book 5. It's like the first day of the last 10 days.
Can we talk about the Musings of L?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, wait.
what's a
first,
French toast?
We still need to get through the interludes.
Let's start. Yeah, let's start with that. We can start with that after interludes. But I also want to know what the rest of you, including Hitman. I think. Are you done?
I just said
Yeah.
So, Captain and Eam the Dream, baby. I want to know what you guys thought about generally of this part.
Yeah, part 5. Part 4 and part 5 were definitely slower pace for me. I found it a little bit more difficult to keep track of what was going on, and even I do a combination of reading the book and doing audiobooking, whatever is most convenient for me at the time. And I kept finding myself needing to reread paragraphs or rewind and like listen to a section over again just because I had kind of blanked out. And I think it was kind of worse in Venli's, one of her many, many chapters, or some of the stuff with with Navani. A lot of her chapters, they're a little bit slower. It's just, it's story, but it's at a different pace, like you guys were saying. And to me, that was a little bit more difficult to get through, but I still ultimately enjoyed it. And I felt like overall, the progression of the story, I felt this was necessary because we got some good back and forth with, at the beginning of this whole book, we had the Odium's forces taking over the Urithiru and the tower, and you got a little bit of a back and forth, so you got to see these fights on a larger scale and also on a smaller scale with Kaladin, the Stormblessed becoming a hero, like an underground guerrilla fighter in the tower. So there was some cool stuff on different levels, which was definitely a change of pace. So I think if some readers were bored by Oathbringer, they might feel the same about this book, but it's hard to say. If you like some of these characters more, you might like this book more. So.
Yeah, I'd say this book made me like the characters more, like Navani and just Navani maybe.
I know 90% of the book's Navani. It feels like
she was. Adolin's chapters were really cool too with his trial.
Oh my gosh! Yes.
We don't even know what happened with that. We got cut off from that.
We did get cut off from that. We only know that Shallan picked a fight with the entire Ghostbloods organization.
Which is
hands
awesome.
down.
Yeah.
Even the Dream, I want to know what you thought about part 5.
I thought that I agree with Josh. I think it followed the same tempo, but I thought it was awesome as opposed to like being a little bit disappointed that it wasn't as action packed. I feel like this book really helped us kind of make these characters seem a little bit more believable, or even more like real people, as opposed to just like kind of all
Heroes.
perfect superhero kind of beings. I think it was really good at kind of personifying them and making them a little bit more humane. I thought Navani was really great throughout this whole book. I feel like it's just been a whole bunch of struggle after struggle for the humans, and this was kind of like a breakthrough to just say, you know what, like the kind of thing that makes us resilient or survive is that the fact that we're, regardless of how many times you get knocked down, you kind of still get back up. I thought it was just mentally an incredible written book, and I could relate a lot more to the characters than I could in the previous.
Yeah, I could really relate with specifically Wit, because I'm pretty sure that if I lived to be 10,000 years old, I'd still want to smash sometimes. So,
somebody! I wish we had a Brent bet on that. I think we did. Did we not have a Brent bet on that?
I don't know.
I feel like we did.
Yeah, the Brett was if Yasna got together with the stupid other dude.
Oh, we were joking about
Which
that
dude?
though, and we made the bet on the wrong one.
I remember I made a joke about them starting
general.
like a
The
world-hopping
Herdazian
general.
The
Herdazian.
The mink.
Oh, yeah, the mink. I made a joke about them starting like a world-hopping crime-fighting duo or something like
Wit,
that.
Yeah, we all wanted Yasna to hook up with Wit.
Yeah.
It seemed like it was. All right, so before we get into that, let's actually, now that we all kind of know how we feel about the part, let's go dive in and just briefly talk about the interlude. So somebody's going to actually... Yes, somebody's going to have to help me refresh on the interlude.
Yeah.
We had 3 characters. We had the first one was not Taravangian.
Asina.
No, that was the second interlude. The first one was...
I thought she was
The first one was
The
Hasina.
second one was
The second one was Aiden.
Aiden.
Yeah, the little kid, the little human child in Urithiru.
Yes.
And then the third one, Vulnerable. That's the name of it, I would assume.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the
Okay,
names
so
of
the
interludes.
first one, let's talk about them in order real quick, just like briefly. So the first one was Hasina, right?
Yeah.
So
She lays a little bit of heavy down on Kaladin's
On
dad.
Lyrin.
Yeah,
A little
Lyrin.
bit.
And they're like, you need
much
to...
deserving.
yeah. Actually,
Yeah. See,
it
man,
was.
it's like I read that and I'm like, where has she been? Like this whole book, we
Yeah.
needed Hasina in here way earlier. Like she really puts Lyrin in check.
Well, but
and
it's
she
weird
needed
that
to be
she waited
involved like way sooner than this.
Yeah,
'cause
why'd she wait
finally
so
she's
long?
helping him get some common sense.
So here's what I was thinking about that. I was thinking about it a little bit more, and I think it comes down to the current culture that is in Rothar or Alethkar.
No, and Rothar.
Rothar's the world, right?
Roshar.
Roshar.
Roshar's the world. Thank you. Roshar's the world. So
I think he means Alice Shar.
thank you. I was having a little bit of a moment, guys. I was having a moment.
I think he just sharded.
I definitely didn't.
Jeff's
do that.
one of the shards.
I would have the shards. No. So the one thing.
Drink bringer.
Yes. Like that's my Shardblade's name. So okay, wait. Let me get serious again. I'm sorry.
Let me compose myself.
Yes, compose. Okay, so the one thing that I was going to say that I thought was really cool about this was where was she the whole time? It was awesome to get her mindset here because she clearly left a noble family, like married this guy.
Family, yeah.
Well, a higher up, yeah. Married this guy, maybe of a lower status, but for a reason, and she really loves him for what he is, but he is like Kaladin in a different way. Like they just have different branches of the sameness, and when she put him in check, it was awesome. But I think I almost wonder if it's a subtle tone because in the culture of not all of Roshar, but Alethkar specifically, the roles are very specific. And I think she was trying very hard to play the role just because that's how it's supposed to be. And it's like, even though she thinks all these things, when she snaps, Liren is like,
right.
Oh, you know what I mean? Like it shocks him because he isn't used to her stepping outside of that particular role that she's trying very hard to play because it seems very, like at least for me reading that, I mean she's like she would be a Navani or a Yasna or like she could be one of those type of characters. Like where was she? She's trying to play this role, and I think it was really good for her to step outside there, especially Liren needed it. And clearly that's happened in the past. Like it seems that was a historical thing, but I was very thankful for that just because it made me hate Liren a little less.
I never hated Liren.
Okay.
It was annoying.
I use hate, I'm tossing it around. I don't actually hate Liren. I love Liren. It's Kaladin's dad. Come on.
It just
definitely don't love him.
The main thing, I mean, I liked him and I like his point of view. It just really bothers me when people take point of views and make them dogmatic so that they don't have to actually think about situations. They just, I can follow this, and that's kind of how I felt like he was.
Yeah,
but
I love
that. But that's a very human thing that can happen. You know, people don't like to accept the fact that you can have all the best intentions and still make the wrong choice. You know.
Is it possible to choke on wine?
But I also feel that like Liren, I think even though, and this might be jumping further ahead, I feel that he never had quite the like, I don't know. I still feel like their relationship seemed like it was just patched over because of the trauma and like the event that happened. But I don't think they were ever enough to be like. And I'm wondering if this is intentional, like we're leaving it for later, or if he's leaving it like it just some people can't be this way. But it feels like it was just like, oh my God, we almost just died. Okay, I still love you. Like instead of just like, I understand why you feel this way. It feels like they didn't even really get to that. It was just like, oh, that was so nuts. We're both alive. Okay, let's just put aside our differences, buddy.
You're going to the end piece.
Yeah, that's very far.
So we'll definitely get there, but however, I do think that they're leaving some open because there's still discussion to be had. Yeah. It's really interesting because in the interlude, you find out that essentially both Kaladin, which we know Kaladin feels this way, but also Liren, they both blame themselves for Tien's death. Essentially.
Well, you always knew that Kaladin did, but this is where you really find out how much it's Liren,
So you find out that they view the world differently, but the same at the same time.
Right.
So it's kind of a...
They view the world the same, but they internalize it differently.
Thanks, Manny. Thanks for always helping me.
So Emi.
So Emi and so dreamy. But you...
I was glad for that part, though, because we saw Liren... how he recognized that he was antagonizing the new lord.
Yeah.
Like, he couldn't just, like, sit back and... He said poke a bear. And because of that, his youngest son got drafted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, also, we got to find out too, because is it Messina or Asina? What's her? Hasina. She also like goads him because he keeps yelling at people who put Kaladin's
sash on his
brand on his forehead, and she's like,
just talk to them.
Yeah, like find out why. Just talk to them. How awesome was that? Just talk to them.
Yeah,
and just like
just listen. See what they have to say and just listen to them.
Yeah, that was almost like where she's just like, them. Just shut up and listen to them. Like,
yeah, just see what, like, just see. Which there were some chapters. Was it like see without seeing? There were some good chapter titles in there that were. So that was amazing. The second one was the kid.
Yeah.
Second one was the kid.
Yes, Aiden.
Yeah. Now that comes back in the end.
Very far to the end.
Yes.
I feel like they didn't need to do that as an interlude to set up anything for that kid.
It was kind of nice in a way.
It was interesting, but I didn't felt like it added.
Remember, Brandon Sanderson's thinking 10 books ahead. So.
Oh, is this going to be a bigger?
Aiden may show up one day.
I mean, think about how much later we really started kind of understanding the Pure Lakes interlude.
Right.
You know, that was books later.
Yeah.
So the way that I see it is Aiden. What gives us perspective to not only the people of, and what the standard human person is thinking at the time, but also, especially when he's talking about his dad and like how his dad's so brave.
Be some stuff going on.
But the best thing is, so you're seeing how. I actually think a little kid is a great way, like from the little kid's perspective, is a great way to try to understand a culture if you could take those hints, and realize that he doesn't have it right. But what he's seeing is part of the reality around him. But we also may get Aiden later.
We might. But it was interesting because he was all about being brave.
Yeah.
Well, the honest Ben, about, being honorable and keeping your word.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do get to see that at least the humans in Urithiru, there's like a culture starting of people know that humans are good at bonding Spren. So now even little kids are like, ooh, I want to grow up and bond a Spren. So we see like how, this next generation of humans is kind of being changed by Kaladin and the rest of the leader, the main characters.
I mean, an aspiration to be honorable, is that going to get you to a point where you could get one that maybe you never would have had if you didn't have that, goal out there?
I love that. I wish, it really makes me wish that we could have Spren in real life, because it's like you can literally have this thing that's holding you accountable, but that doesn't have centralized power. It's like on an individual Spren basis, you are either worthy or not. It's not like some gatekeeper that's like, we as a overarching society determine if you are honorable or not. It's like, it's like more individual and very egalitarian. It'd be kind of awesome.
Yeah, if you can prove yourself to the one Spren, then...
And it also incentivizes giving more and more power to people that are more and more proving that they're worthy of it. And it automatically is taken away if you act counter to that honorability. So it's kind of a cool...
Well, it does, but it also kills the Spren. So
whatever. They're not real. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I don't have a Spren,
but that's why it's also good, because it really holds you accountable. And
that's why the really cool chapter title, when we get to it, it's going to be amazing. But when we talk about Bondsmith Unchained. The chapter title is Unchained.
Yeah.
And it was crazy to see the level of power you could have without the oaths. Like, it is scary in a way. So the fact that they have these oaths, these like things that they live by, this partnership with the Spren, it really helps check how they're using the power, which is super cool.
Yeah.
Which we'll get to.
Yeah.
Now, number 3, was it Taravangian again? I think it is. It's always Taravangian's always an interlude.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was a Taravangian.
It was the one where doesn't he write where he gets Renarin to come and visit him?
I think he asks, Renarin visits, and he asks specifically, he needs something to draw Odium to him, and he's still trying to like come up with a way to get Zeth to kill Odium.
If only.
So I still love because I edited the episodes and I've listened to them many times, and I'm sure as people listen to the previous episodes, but the amount of times that Andrew was like, I just love Taravangian as a villain. This and that, just like constantly going on about Taravangian being a villain.
Well, you're gonna love book 5.
Yeah, when this fucking shit happened, I was like, what? We have been talking about Taravangian, obviously, from the very beginning. And boy, that moment was scary. But before we get there.
But I got a bet.
Okay, Brett. First,
since we're talking about
Taravangian. Yeah, okay.
He was pretty sure that no one suspected that he switched places.
Right.
Pretty sure.
Yeah.
But Renarin sent him
letter.
The letter with the stones in them.
Yeah.
And he's outside the vision of the gods.
Yep.
So I'm thinking that he might realize that Taravangian replaced.
Or he even did that intending with that prediction, like this is gonna happen.
At least knowing.
That's my bet that he suspects or realizes that Taravangian became Ruin.
So the Brett bet is
it Ruin?
Did Renarin
Odium.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did Renarin know that Taravangian?
No, or does he like find out later, like before it is revealed? Like he just like figures it out, just thinking one day, like, oh my god.
So Brett knows how I feel about this. 100% agree that he knew.
Yeah,
I think he knew.
And there's something much bigger, like even bigger, that yeah. But he knew.
I'm saying yes. That was my bet. I think he does.
Does anybody say
No.
No.
Does any idiot think no?
Because it's been a while since we've had a nice old-fashioned group Brett
No,
bet.
be honest. We don't need to
I didn't think it
force
was like a sure thing.
Yeah, no. Is anyone here
I
dumb?
don't think it's a sure thing either.
I don't either.
I'm
my
just
God.
kidding. I'm just kidding. I definitely 100%.
Join.
I agree. That.
So
Join the dark side.
Josh is in no. So it's all of us versus
Yeah,
Josh.
yeah,
Nice.
I say yes.
I don't even have to write down that much. Just Josh, no. Nobody? Jeff and I both talked.
I mean, that's a really sensible theory, Hitman. It's hard to go against that.
Yeah.
I guess I could play devil's advocate, but my heart is not in it. If anyone wants to play devil's advocate with me, then I'll explain my reason.
Don't do on this one. Don't do devil's advocate. Do what your heart tells, and let's see if we all like whatever happens.
And the bait.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking that Renarin knew.
Psych.
That's what I mean. Brandon Sanderson
thinking he
could
knew.
be. Never mind.
So let me ask this though: if everybody
I
agrees,
like
if this is a group bet, are you confirming also, Manny, or no? Yeah. Okay. So this is a group bet. So answers are locked.
Intricacies.
With that being said, what is the significance of sending the little stones? Then?
The two spren that were captured there were to draw Odium. That's what he asked for.
That's what he was.
As soon as they broke
Gotcha.
out, Odium's like, Ja'anat, whatever Ja'anat is up to something. I need to get there and catch her.
It drew Odium there.
And Odium showed up, and that was the
Now, when Odium was smart, his plan was to like use those stones, send them with like do something much more strategic. But when he was emotional,
When Odium or when Taravangian?
Taravangian was emotional and not intelligent itself. He just broke them. He forgot what they were.
Well, wasn't Taravangian tells him don't
Seth.
break that or don't, and you need to
somebody
keep
else
those,
does,
and
right?
then freaking
Zeth broke
Zeth
them.
is like, I don't believe anything you say, and just breaks them.
Yeah.
He's like, I won't.
But
be
of course, the plan was by smart Taravangian, who is now Odium. But essentially, he's like, Zeth, take these. Don't break them. The
thing that I mean, Josh was almost right. Like every time he was compassionate, he was trying to save everybody.
He was until he
Please,
became Odium.
Seth, please.
Yeah. I still feel that it's weird to me that Zeth had because they talk about the entire end of the book. It's like he's like, I'm constantly dumb. Everything I'm doing, like it just like I feel like I'm like muddled through water and I'm not doing what I need to be doing. But what I almost feel that this is maybe still all by design, because he says I feel like my smartness is going away, but somehow he had that whole plan written up. Like, this feels like a plan that was written up, but he never had the intelligence to actually write this. So it almost feels like this could have even been part of the
original
that was just like, I'm not going to write this down, but I know all of these actions will lead to this.
As we find out, Cultivation definitely intended him to take the mantle of Odium.
And that's the big thing is, I think towards the end you get the question is, I think Cultivation still knows the action. This is all still part of a Cultivation plan.
I think she fucked up.
Or do you think she fucked up? I think it's part of
I think she was like,
plan.
this will be great. She got 2 in a row. She's like, Dalinar, that played out perfect. Lift, that played out perfect. Taravangian's the next ace in the hole. Whoops.
And I think
now we're all
worse off.
Yeah.
But I mean, well, I don't know that for sure. I'm just saying.
We don't know that for sure, but it's. I also feel like it is slightly supported by the fact that we got to listen to his inner monologue and how the plan almost went according to plan by him constantly doing this like flip flop between take the good path, take the evil path.
Yeah.
And we like at one moment he's like, oh my gosh, I can blah 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 blah, and then at the other moment he's like, no. And he's like constantly like we hear his inner monologue of like, oh, I'll be a better Odium. No, I'm just gonna do.
Or but I see his plan and I'm like, I can make it work better.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, this is the thing. I mean, I know we're a little towards the end now, but the one thing that's kind of crazy is that I really do believe that his exact kind of mindset, because like his mindset, unless I'm mistaken, his mindset at the end when we're listening to his thoughts wasn't, oh my gosh, I can rule the world, I can do this, I can do that.
He was still, I can fix it.
It was still like, I can fix everything.
Yeah.
I can make this right. And I feel like, oh man, that's just, unfortunately, it's like the mindset of every fucking brutal killer tyrant in the history of man, is that they don't take that fourth ideal that Kaladin accepted, I can't save everybody, and they think I can save everybody. And they think, and the only way to do that is to kill everybody that doesn't fit into that plan.
Yeah.
That's the sad thing. You can only take away people's choice to create a utopia. That's the only way. If you take away people's choice and anybody that doesn't fit in, that's the only way to create a utopia. And unfortunately, I feel like that's where he's headed.
Yeah.
It's also scary because he has aspirations to fix all the universes.
Oh yeah,
all the universes. Yeah, well, let's create all the perfect universes.
Yeah, because he kind of gets to see all the other shards, like their plans, and he's like, "Oh, these guys are all so weak and old, and like just not doing what they should be doing. I can fix that."
By the way, I know we're gonna get to it, so we're gonna save it to the very end. But obviously, we're gonna end the entire book with deep Brett bets on Dalinar's fate. However,
I don't want to.
But before we get to that, I think we should go. Let's just throw characters out. Let's go character by character because I mean this part was short.
Sure.
And really, it's about their stories. So we could go through them.
Nice.
You know?
Let's start with Churi Churi.
Churi. Oh, by the way, great comments. Even on last session of the chicken. Last session of episodes that were released, we had some really good comments on Churi Churi actually that enlightened us to the fact that they are not from this world. They're probably from a different world. They're specific. And
I was mistaken, but I thought one of the comments said that Churi Churi is from this world, but that the other things that behave similarly aren't.
Oh, maybe that's
the chickens or whatever.
Oh,
but that Churi Churi is
look
a
at
predator
all
or
them
something like that.
The predator.
But I don't know. I may have just been completely.
I'm pretty sure that
mistaken.
Churi Churi is one of the chickens.
But that's what I thought. I saw one. I thought I saw one of the the comments say that it wasn't.
Whether Churi Churi is in or Churi Churi is not, the chickens actually are
the chickens are not from this world or something.
And Brandon Sanderson read a short story that he wrote I forget what it was titled, but it's in one of the comments in
It was
episode
titled
104.
"Look at All Those Chickens."
And it was a book
Everybody,
as part of the
everyone just say it.
Cosmere, based way into the future of the Cosmere. So, like, Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere actually has a timeline, and he's releasing books, and that's why Mistborn, which went from initial 3 set, which next we'll be doing the Western set, and they're like, wow, this 3 set of books feels so different. It's like a Western or something else, and then there's going to be
is the 3rd one, right?
4th.
Oh, it's the 4th.
Yeah, so the Cosmere actually is gonna change in time as well as the technologies and all of the associated planets / worlds that we love. So he read a clip way as a teaser to the future of the Cosmere, and it had to do with those chickens. It literally had to do with those chickens.
Was it about how KFC was founded?
Apparently they're flying around in space.
The comment was that
Cherry
Tree is from this world.
Yeah, so I
know that this thing can absorb Stormlight, but
I don't know.
It looks delicious.
Where that went, but if you guys check it out, maybe you'll get a hint that we don't have yet, and we'll be instructed upon thanks to you later on.
It makes me really sad that Skywood's not bought the Cosmere.
I know. Yeah.
So, and that actually makes me really think about something, because Brandon Sanderson said it was supposed to be, but there was one like plot thing that kept not fitting in the Cosmere, and now, because I know he's thinking so far ahead, he was thinking about the sci-fi piece of the Cosmere that it doesn't fit. Yeah. And so whatever that was, it must have been big enough to make it so that he would rather have it not.
Because it could have been like, this was Rosha or the Mistborn continent, and those people who could speak to the hyperdrive were either Mistborn or like another form of magic. This is
some kind of investure.
Yeah.
And I still think Kremlings eventually evolve into the Krell. So,
so
I stand by that theory.
All right. So now that we're done with Shuri,
and Doomslug's gonna be the final boss. He's the bad guy.
He's Odium.
So now that we're done with Chitty Chitty, what's the next character that we should chat?
I think if we start on the lower end, we go with Venli.
I thought we were done with Venli.
Yeah,
we can be done with. I am all for being done with Venli.
I don't think she had a bad part at all.
Oh,
I feel like she was the lower. Well,
she learned.
Yeah,
she learned.
Because
Manny, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, what do you think? What's your opinion about that?
Everyone else who's like watching the episode now was like,
she sucks.
All right.
I love how we have like 3 people that are always on board with Manny every time he goes on a Venli binge. It's like, yeah, man, finally somebody else that hates her.
That's the comments. I still stand to my initial stance that she will grow. That's all I'll say.
She is great.
I hope she does.
She is growing. I agree.
I don't want to get, because we thoroughly covered this in the first 38 minutes of the last episode.
Yeah.
But I agree with Josh that I think that we would look at it a little differently if she was like a main character. Like if we were with her from the beginning, I feel like they get more the benefit of the doubt. And I feel like she's changing slowly. She's coming along.
I still think that
extremely slowly, but slowly.
Right. Yeah, because she. So how does it work out? She leaves with the writ from Rabonel.
Rabonio.
She leaves with
Rabanoids. I said that. I said all kinds of weird.
Yeah.
And she gets to what, Alethkar, and then from there she went straight to the Shattered.
Yeah.
No, she was at the Oathgate and they never left. Because Vaya got pulled away. He left.
Yeah, but she makes it there eventually.
Oh, you're talking about the
Was
end.
was that in
end.
Kolinar, Hitman? Was the Oathgate, was that in Kolinar or no?
That's what I thought. I thought
the
they
Oathgate that they actually leave on is the Shattered Plains Oathgate. And then they go off into the Shattered Plains, and then they find them through
And then they find that all the rest of the listeners had tamed chasm fiends. Chasm fiends.
And by the way, the thing that's really cool to remember is that Kholinar is still 100% the capital and occupied by Odium's main force. Kholinar is the capital of the enemy force at this point. So they couldn't go there just because of that risk. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so she I still think so. What happened that she eventually did leave? Because we know she had to have left. Who opened the gate for her to actually leave?
Oh, they all did. Well, they didn't all do it, but actually, they ended up winning, and then therefore
so that was at the very
And then remember, Relayan decided to stay. He said, "My place is here at the moment. I've got some other things to do, but I will come." And so they had kind of their sending, and she got her peace with her. Her mother, which was good.
And actually, her mother, like, she brings the rest of her type of Spren, which I forget what type they are.
Oh, yeah, the Will Shapers is going to be awesome. It's going to be interesting to see whether Venli can lead the Will Shapers or not. That's where my worry is.
It seems to me that the Will Shapers would be more independent
than
probably
the
other groups. It's all about freedom, and so they have a general idea of what they want to do, but being like one leader, like the Windrunners, obviously is Kaladin.
Yeah.
That I don't see them found the same path.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They like novelty.
It's tough to say, but I'm glad for her. I'm glad she has an opportunity to maybe grow, and I'm also glad that she saw somebody as like potently on the side of Odium, like Leshwe, make some truly impactful, immediate decisions that were just like, this is it. I understand. I'm going. And then, oh, yeah, I'll be tortured for all of eternity.
I love that scene where Timbray's like, show her. And it's just like, no, I can't. And then all of a sudden she just like drinks in the Stormlight, and Leshwe's like, finally. Like, it gives you that like suspense moment where she's just like, thank God. Like, I remember, ask your friend about this other friend. This was my friend when I was...
Which is really interesting because that indicated that Leshwe was bonded to his friend in the past.
No, I don't think she was necessarily bonded. I think she
Or a friendship of some sort,
I thought
maybe?
she was bonded or something, but I was really surprised that she was that old.
She's original.
I kind of should have guessed, but in my mind, I was still thinking the Fuse were humans from the old planet.
I was too. Oh, dude, I love that theory so much. I was.
Yeah, that definitely kind of I think fell off.
But it's probably not.
But does that make you think that Leshwe was actually older than Rabonel? Raboniel. Because Raboniel said that her mother was the one who was alive when there were
then that would indicate that Leshwe is even older
than her, which I think is kind of cool.
It's Leshwe, Jeffrey. Leshwe.
Leshwe is.
So I thought that was a really cool,
definitely older
kind of idea.
And Rabonel.
To get.
Make sure Rabonel.
Rabinoids.
Like Tylenol, but
flavonoids. Yes, like Tylenol with an R.
I'm
Are we just naming Pokemon now? Rattata?
Rattata, basically. No, I get you. Leshwe. Anyway.
Leshwe.
Thank you. Leshwe.
Jeff attuned to the rhythm of applause.
I attuned to the rhythm of applause. And actually, if I didn't get any applause, I wouldn't have said it right. The coolest thing about that you brought up is that the fused are a mixed batch. Like when you think about the fused, there's we haven't thought about it yet, but there's a whole spectrum: younger, older, Rabinoid. Raboniel. Yeah, Raboniel thought. You thought she was the oldest. She even was one of the 9. Or
daughter, too. Yeah,
but,
she's got a daughter.
But the reality is, Leshwe. Oh my God, I hate saying it right. It's less fun. Anyway, Leshwe. She is the fact that she's older but was a less rank and just like more careful about how she approached things, it's pretty cool. It's just gives you a different feel for maybe what the fused are or could be or more.
Yeah.
So that was pretty sweet.
Yeah, so I think that's gonna be. I'm wondering if there's gonna be a part of the next book that actually goes back and talks about those initial days of the fused or the spren changing from the listeners or the singers to over to the humans when the humans came. I think that'd be a cool section of the next book to be like in some of the chapters going back to some of that.
It is crazy
like
now.
Full series.
Now that we know my theory
Just
is
a little
like
side
wrong,
fucking story.
with like the fuse being original humans, I thought that would be such a cool twist.
would have been really cool.
But it is really cool to know that actually some of the heralds were old enough to come over as well.
Yeah, that was crazy. That
And I was like, whoa, some of the heralds came over with
old planet.
Odium.
Wow.
Was it some or all of them?
Actually, the bonds. I don't know about all. We don't have that confirmed yet. For sure, not the daughter. Like, for example, Salash, her father is Yezra. Yezrin.
Yezrin now.
Yezrian. Thank you. So like we know that probably Yezrian might have come over. Maybe we don't know for sure, but for sure we know the bondsmith was actually manipulated by Odium in the beginning. He was one of the people who was manipulated by Odium to experiment with the surges that destroyed their world.
And also let them cross over to the new.
Like all of them, or maybe just not the daughter crossed over.
Maybe.
Because
would Kalek have crossed over
they
too?
would all have to be in similar of age unless they have longer lifespans.
Well, they may have longer lifespans due to investure. Now that we know how investure works.
But you think they get the investure once they die and make that commitment that they need to stay or whatever it is that when, because it's all like about their death and how strong their soul is connected to a cause.
No, it could be
Stormlight.
That is way
that's how
one way that could be.
That's how Zeth stays, because his soul was so harshly tied to his need for.
Wait,
I thought it was because he had so much Stormlight in him.
Yes,
because he's so much invested that his soul couldn't pass on.
And
I thought it was because of his calling was so strong that he felt he could not leave. So
the calling would have mattered.
Needed to stay.
You're both right. The calling wouldn't have mattered without the fact that he was so loaded with Stormlight when he died that it let the soul stick around a tiny bit longer than it should have before it went on to the beyond. And that's what the investure, like when you're invested, essentially invested with the power of a god. That's what all the powers are. And we had a great comment about investure that I can't remember who sent it now, but anyway, they sent it about Warbreaker, about why Xyle came anyway here, because he was tired of taking people's breaths from his world, because the type of investure in his home world was about the breaths of the soul of other people, taking investure from other people, which and he would fade away essentially because he's such like a highly invested person. But yet being on a planet where Stormlight is regularly dispersed and replenished, every storm is a big factor. So you're actually both right. The need was there. That has to be there because the way that investure works is through like how you perceive the world and your purpose. But if he wasn't loaded to the gills with Stormlight when he died, he would have just died.
There's also a part of me that kind of wonders, just as like a little passing shower thought, I was wondering if like there is, even with Stormlight, a little bit more taking from others than we realize. Because I think about like when Dalinar basically like combined like all the realms and just like exploded this like bukkake of Stormlight across everybody in the battlefield. It's like, it's almost as if he was like just taking all of this power from all these different realms and concentrating it into this area. Maybe. So it may not be like I'm taking this person's investure, but I do wonder like where all of this is
certainly
coming
the spiritual
from.
realm.
Well,
yeah.
It feels like the Stormlight is somehow tied to spren. So like the spren are people's emotions and like a physical manifestation of, or not maybe physical, but a spiritual manifestation of people's like emotions and reactions to things. So it almost feels like the power that they're using is also somehow a manifestation of people's emotions. So as people, like when people get riled up and like, and they think the storm's coming, and as the storm comes through it, like they're somehow their power is what's fueling it. Could be.
Well, I do know that it is fact. This was just said based on our commentary and also based on Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere, that Spren actually predated the arrival of the shards to the planet. It wasn't created like some of the systems are created via the shards. This one, the Spren actually predated it, and then were like fused into. And then we have the three realms. So you have the Spren, but then you have
cognitive and
so like we don't know how that all interacted with each other yet.
As far sorry, this is a side thought. Go ahead and finish.
I was gonna say it feels like almost that third realm is
the spirit realm,
heavenly type place, because Dalinar's ability to tap into that is what let us, whether it's real or not, get us that idea that Kaladin was able to actually talk to his brother, Tien.
Yes. Oh man.
Yeah.
We're gonna get there.
So that feels like you've got this, like you have the main world, you have the opposite spirit. Well, what is it called? Cognitive
spirit,
realm?
cognitive, and physical.
So you have the physical, and then you have the cognitive, which is like the opposite of the physical realm in terms of like a lot of the different ways. And then maybe even outside of that is that third realm that's like the spiritual. And it feels like when people die in either one of these, potentially maybe both of them can go to that spirit realm.
Well, I could give you this piece of fact. You'd have to read some of the short stories and stuff, so I don't want to say like too much, but even the spiritual realm, there is another thing. They call it the beyond, and they even mention it in this book. It's different than the spiritual realm. The beyond is the beyond, but the spiritual realm has weight. It is something different.
Entirely. Oh, then even just like passing on.
But there is also the beyond, and that's what they call it. And when you fade away, even if you could go to the spiritual realm, the beyond is what the question mark is around. So now Brandon Sanderson has to enlighten us all on this, and I don't want to say like overly too much, but he has written quite a bit about the realms. Especially, we got to do, as we go into the second era of Mistborn, there's a really good short story about the spiritual realm, now, in some way, in cognitive realm.
One thing I'm curious about, if this gets into too much spoilers, feel free to just be like, they do touch on that, but we won't talk about it.
Yeah, I'm trying to like.
But I'm also curious do we have any reason to believe that any of the other worlds that we've encountered so far in the Cosmere also have other realms?
All of them do.
Well,
all of them.
In Mistborn, kind of, because Sazed.
That's
said,
right. Kind of communicate.
Like, hey, Vin and Ellen are tired, and they're happy now.
Right.
Yeah.
So he could see the other realm, or
that's true.
Some of the beyond, or something.
Yeah, something. That's true. Interesting.
Unless he was just lying.
But they might also.
He wasn't.
But not necessarily. Not necessarily exactly as we see the realms in this world, though, where there's like a Spren world and a spiritual realm and a cognitive realm. Well, the Spren world is actually
the cognitive realm.
Right.
The realms are always the same.
All worlds, right?
Physical.
So all the worlds have a cognitive realm and a spiritual realm, as far as we know.
All
existence.
They're all the same. So the physical world is all the same for everybody physical, but my distance in the physical world is limited because I could never get to you if you're on another system in the galaxy.
Yeah.
But in the cognitive world, my
distance, maybe
my ability to travel is changed.
Well, and we know in Warbreaker, obviously there's a physical realm, but they were able to get to Sadesmar and travel to Roshar. So they had the spiritual realm.
I don't remember that.
No, Zyle got there.
Oh, that's how gotcha.
Because of the cognitive.
I got you. That's true.
Because what was it? There was even a quote in it. I forget who it was. If it was Wit or it was like, he was like, "What are you, crazy? You can't travel there unless you're in the."
So pretty much, as far as we know, almost all world hopping is done via the cognitive realm.
Actually, it is, because at this point in the Cosmere, there's no instantaneous space travel or light speed or anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's no sci-fi yet.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
So all the world hopping is done via Shadesmere.
As far as we know. Yeah. Cool.
What they call Shadesmere. Because it could be, it's like,
it could be something else
the
in
realm
a different world, yeah.
But it might just be called something different with each world.
Right.
Exactly. Okay, next character.
So we kind of just said
Let's do Navani and Raboniel.
Okay, let's do Navani.
Oh,
I am actually
man.
100%. This was the one that I think I hit the nail on the head with my.
Except for the bonding, right? Who said that she wasn't going to bond? Who said that Navani wasn't going to bond?
Let's look it up. Let's see. Who said Navani? I think I hit it on the head with Raboniel was gonna be the one to have at her deathbed just be like, oh, it's, and I think I even said it could have been at Navani's hand, but being like, this is to help you along your way. And her with frickin' what's his name? Moash. Ash and Moash. When she's just like dying.
Bastard.
And grabs him and just holds him back.
Here he goes. You guys ready for this?
Well, hold on, but this is a Brett bet that I have a feeling could potentially have some discrepancies. Will Taravangian betray Odium to save everyone and risk Carbranth?
Oh boy! Did he? He definitely betrayed Odium.
He definitely betrayed Odium.
Yeah. The best thing about that Brett bet is we're gonna have to leave it open. We can't even do it in the next Brett bet episode.
How did he know him? He put not put up Carbranth on the table.
He definitely killed Odium.
That's true. That's true. That's true. He didn't risk Carbranth.
He did.
But
correct.
Because he as Odium now may risk Carbranth. But the one I was looking for is Raboniel wants everyone dead as her secret way to end the war.
Oh,
that was the Brett bet.
That was it. I guess we took a different Brett bet despite all the good conversation that we had.
What was the Brett bet you thought happened?
I thought it was.
No, we did definitely take a Navani gonna.
Yeah, it was.
We took a Navani.
It was about Raboniel.
Oh.
Raboniel after she would die,
was it the
and she would
before?
help Navani. Right?
Yeah.
We
that sounds familiar.
We took a Navani. Navani's
before?
either gonna bond the sibling or be a Dustbringer. That was the bet.
That was one of them. I'm talking about the Brett bet I made in the last book. Was
I might not have written it down if we actually did it.
That important thing.
Who cares?
Okay.
Anyway, she did bond it. I remember we argued a lot about it, and I remember Josh was like, "That's too much. It's one or the other." I'm like, "No, it's both. It's either she bonds the sibling or is a Dustbringer."
Yeah.
And then you were like, "Neither."
Oh, here we go. It was in part 2.
Oh.
Navani will bond sibling or become a Dustbringer.
Oh damn!
Let's see what happened.
oh my god!
Josh said no. Brett, yes. Ben, yes. Jeff, yes. Andrew, yes. Manny, yes.
Sorry,
Don't drink
Josh.
it yet, though, because
No,
we're
you
going to
got
do a Brett bet episode.
Drink now that we cheers.
You'll get to feel that
I
later.
have to. I only do one, not 5, because
No, you
5
only do
people
one.
bet against
You only
me.
do one.
Yeah, it's okay.
No, you gotta do 5.
Gosh dang it! Oh, let's just leave it super open ended, Jeff.
That's not open-ended. Anyway, the Raboniel one, though, I think that we probably lost it.
everybody, Josh.
Well, at least I did. Anyway, who knows? But I loved the entire scene. Like I was honestly, I don't know if you guys felt this way, but I was like, oh my god, how is Navani gonna get out of this? Like I was so freaked out, and then it ended up. I just loved the entire thing. Like she just handled it herself completely. But the entire time I was like, who's gonna come and help her? Oh my god!
I still think Navani's
it's like
my
that's
favorite
wrong on me to
story
like
arc.
think
Yeah.
that, right?
The end of the
But it's
book,
like,
Navani was
oh
my
god.
favorite story arc.
I do have to say that I feel a little guilty saying this because I agree. I really love Navani now. In the beginning, I was like, why do we keep spending time with this woman? I want to hear about Yasna. Like, why are we dealing with Yasna Light when we could have real Yasna?
Oh yeah.
But I what's the phrase? Ate my hat. I guess that's the old like 1950s phrase. I had to eat my words. Yeah, I ate crow. Thank you. Because as we got to know Navani more and more, I was like, Navani's a badass also. This is where Yasna gets it.
Oh my gosh, that was one of the things that I was like not frustrated about, but it was funny because it's just like she kept leaving the traps and stuff out, and she goes all the way up. Granted, we're jumping to the very end, but she's literally in there and she's like, let's go back to my room and talk. And they're like, okay. And I'm like, yeah, what are they going to talk about? What's going to happen? And then I'm like, the traps. Like when she walks into the Fabrial.
It was a great setup. It was such
amazing.
a clever setup because I almost missed it. Kind of thing. Yeah. Like, the pain, the blah, the this, the that.
She basically tried to kill her twice. Right?
Yep.
She
tried to kill her once.
She set the trap.
He actually killed her the second time.
And kind of, right? She still gets reborn, but she like doesn't have a soul or something, right?
No, she killed her enough to kill her.
Did she?
She's
Okay.
like, I can no longer feel the rhythms of Roshar. So she's like, I think you've done it. It's just
Did Raboniel
taking a
know
while.
that Yasna did it the first time? No, right? She thought it was like her messing around with something. She
I don't
thought it
think
wasn't
she
what.
knew.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think she
No,
knew.
Raboniel.
Did Raboniel know that? You
That
said
Yasna tried to kill, or not, or that
Navani.
Navani. Oh, did
Yeah.
I say Yasna?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because Navani left the stuff and be like, hopefully she'll test this. Like, let me run out of here.
Because when Navani went back in the room, she was just like, I was playing with shit I shouldn't have played with.
Super clever to like give her the blade. Like to get her into the trap.
Yeah.
Ooh, and then take that.
let's,
Oh my gosh.
we'll fix this together. And she's like, obvious Raboniel at that point is like, yeah, we'll still, like, I'll still betray her. Like, I'm doing what I need to do.
Yeah.
Which Navani probably knew at this point because it's happened every
even
freaking part.
once the trap went off and she was stabbed, I don't know, it was a little bit later, but Livonia applauded her.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Oh, I did not see that coming.
Yeah.
Y'all thought me, and she's like, don't be sad. Like, I would have done the same thing to save my species.
Yeah.
And then
She literally was like, at my age, when you've lived as long as I have, you appreciate anything that surprises
You?
Oh, yeah. I feel like it's like all those old samurai movies where like the samurai master finally gets bested by a new young gun and he's just like, I'm just happy that somebody finally beat me. You know?
It was the
How about the awesome saying when she stabs her and she's like, I'm sorry, but maybe you shouldn't be so trusting. Oh, God. It's like, dang. It's like, hey, here's some medicine. Taste your own, bitch.
Yeah.
Navani did get burned at least 3 times.
Oh my
I mean, to be fair,
That
like,
same statement,
it's
so.
basically the exact same way that Zeth probably would have reacted in book 1, 2, and 3 if he would have been killed.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's over.
Well, I also like that she, like, Raboniel was pretty much just like, okay, I'm dying. Like, I'm fine with this. Like, let's just make sure the war is gonna end.
Yeah.
And she's like, her first and foremost, obviously, I want my side to end the war, and we're doing this. But also at this point, it's just like, I don't even care. I want the war to end. So let both sides have the tools, which is they
have it now.
It's also a bit sad that it's like both for the fused. Well, granted, I think the fused want it more, but the killing of the spread, I feel, is even worse side of that because they're nearly.
That's tough because they are not they're not. Although they may rebond a human, it's like a totally different process than being reborn.
Exactly.
As that person.
Whereas like these now, we're not even like, I'll stab you, I'll kill the human, but I'll also kill the spren, which it adds so. I think there's a lot of questions.
It does sound like
around
we don't
that.
know this yet, but it does sound like you need to kill them both separately, which is an advantage to the.
Oh yeah,
human
they
side.
stab the spren, not the person to kill the spren.
Oh
So,
man, that was such a dark moment. We're gonna get to, I'm sure.
Do we want to do a drink to Raboniel?
Yeah,
Is she
I
drink
love
worthy?
this. I think she really spiced up this book.
I
I
love
love
her character.
You know what?
Yeah.
Cheers to Raboniel.
Raboniel. Rest in
Cheers to Rebenoid.
whatever.
Rest in the beyond, not in Odium's constant torture or
from the
braze.
first time you get introduced to her to everything you learn about her, I'm like, gosh dang, this feels like an entirely different character. Because when they introduce her, they're like so crazy that the 10 wouldn't even have her on the
9.
frickin' or the 9
Yeah.
wouldn't even allow her or she stepped down because she wanted to go beyond them, or she wanted to be able to do her own stuff. So almost from the beginning, it felt like she was just like super malevolent, like bad, like oh my god, even more unhinged than everyone else.
Because we hear about that disease he unleashed. Yeah, it's like, oh, she's just trying to kill everybody.
But she seemed to be like legitimately one of the most like sane, empathetic, like actually thinking about and understanding of. She's like, I know I'm in this war and my part in it, and I'm doing my part, but that doesn't mean that I resent you for your part or what you're doing. I understand what you're doing too.
Yeah. I almost feel like this. I don't know if anybody's ever seen the movie Rear Window, but I almost feel like this is like a Hitchcock moment where it feels strange that we're like, we literally just cheers to a woman that released a fucking pandemic on an entire race of people.
And killed her own daughter.
And it's like, if you've ever seen Rear Window, it's super strange because throughout the whole movie, you're like literally sitting there hoping somebody died. You're like, oh, I hope he finds the body now. And it's like really weird how like they got you to like turn on what you know is moral to like empathize with somebody that's a murderous killer, because it's more complicated than that sometimes. And sometimes
understanding
people
that it's that much more complicated.
Yeah, exactly.
Than, like because you do at this point, you can sit back and be like, I almost see like, I heard that virus like just end the war, even if it kills both sides. Like, I almost like, I wish they would have.
Well, obviously she didn't intend it to.
I wish they would have indulged in that a little bit more to say, did she actually intend?
Oh, that's a good point.
Was it not just that it failed because it killed some Parshendi too, or did it fail because it didn't just kill everyone?
Everybody.
I think we find out that she wanted her side to win, and
and I think she
she says it a few times throughout.
So I think it failed because it killed both sides. And I think she.
It didn't kill all the humans
because he wants her side to win.
Yeah, but I mean, even then, like I feel like too, they could have put something in there like, I want this to end, so I can end. Like that seems to be a bit of a something they don't quite address in her story arc. Is she seems to be very like, I just want the war to end, but what does she want to do when the war ends? Is she okay with staying immortal? Because she seems to resent the immortality part of it with her daughter.
I think she's looking to die eventually.
Like, but she's like,
she wants her side to win, and then she wants to
be able to kill her, somehow be done after that. Maybe she thought that Odium would be able to grant that when she died. Like, Odium, like, we've done it for you, Odium. It's over. Like, now let me and my daughter pass. Obviously, if Navani hadn't discovered the ability.
I do think it's also interesting because it's like, how many times throughout human history have such atrocities been done in this like vision of peace without conflict? You know, like how many times have people been like, oh, I'm gonna just dominate the whole world in our country's flag, so that way there's no more fighting, you know? And it's like, I don't know, it's also interesting, like when you hear it like detached from our world and you hear it in another world, it just like really makes you kind of realize how you can even understand, not agree with, but understand how insane ideas can start to be thought of as not as insane by certain people sometimes. I'm not saying that I agree with it. I'm not saying it's okay, but
it's kind of separating your rational mind from your emotional.
Yeah. It's almost like because I know like one thing that happens, they did like a study and they found that people are generally more logical when they're speaking in their second language. Not if they're natively bilingual, but if they're like second language bilingual, people become more rational and less emotional speaking in their second language, because it detaches them from the emotion of those words that are connected viscerally to them, because they have to think about it more cerebrally through the second language. And it's almost like stories allow you to do that with ideas as well, because it disconnects you from, oh, this is happening to these people or that people. They're a different people, and you can like kind of more logically think through the situations. I think that's really interesting. Anyway, sidebar over, sorry.
One thing that I think I want to talk about too is how I really enjoyed the Navani growth in terms of like her settling into her role as, am I an actual scholar, or am I just like a leader of scholars? Like, oh, all I've done is just like tell them what to do. And I thought it was really cool too when they start to go into the songs, like that she slowly over the entire period starts to understand. She's like, oh, I can kind of sense a little bit like her. Like, did that sound like a little bit of confusion when she sang it that way?
Yeah.
Like, all of a sudden she's starting to understand
Starting
it.
to hear the rhythms a little bit.
Then when she builds she puts the gems on her arm. So, because she's like, I can't hear the rhythms. But if the gems are physically touching me, I can start to feel the rhythms through the actual gemstones.
Yeah.
And then the whole singing between them, I thought that was a lot of really cool stuff that they added to her story arc.
Yeah.
It was really cool because she also said that like traditionally women of Elothkar were trained in music, even if it wasn't like a calling of theirs, so to speak. But
it's a feminine art.
She had enough to like go with. Clearly, she might be better than she thinks. I think musically, because she was able to tap those rhythms. But it was very cool to see that. It also opened a door of empathy, which we didn't have before, with the rhythms, right?
Or that emulsifier, like that two can kind of merge together,
right?
Or start
exactly.
to, like you can have these conflicting songs, but also emotions that also can be driven to the same like kind of point. Like I think that was the emulsifying agent at the end was kind of purpose. Like
no, I have no idea how Navani's gonna get over this enslavery of Spren, but
that's gonna be
she's gonna have to work on the sibling with that one.
I think
whatever.
that's gonna turn into is literally a leaps and bounds increase, because they're gonna be like, what you can do is you can actually, because it feels like what they're finding out is that if the Spren willingly decides to become this, to give this item its power, it feels like it's more strong. What they're going to do is they're going to be able to now they're going to actually convince Spren to do something, and then put the actual, like, oh, if you put aluminum here and you do this here, it can amplify and change the properties of the Spren without actually just trapping them in a gemstone.
Because I feel like at the end of the book, we found out that Navani, she saw how the tower worked. She was like part of the tower.
Yeah.
And she saw all the devices that, like, oh, this is a pump, this is a heating. And they have heating
Fabrials. Yeah.
But those somehow fundamentally different than the ones of the tower. And now that she knows how to make those, or she will, I feel like, that she's going to change and, like, we have to do it this way now and not the old way.
I have a feeling all of it, even, like, the less conscious, or what they think are the less conscious Spren, I think all of it's going to turn into, like Josh said, I think it's going to all turn into everything. Entities are going to have to make a choice. Just like Spren have to choose if they want to bond with a human. If someone wants to do that,
Spren
they have
chooses
to choose.
to turn into this heating Fabrial instead of like, we're going to capture a random fire Spren. But one thing I loved about that whole scene is when Navani first bonds with the sibling. Is the sibling is like, oh, these are like super complicated and you're not gonna understand. She's like, oh, I know what's happening. We just need to do this. The sibling kind of was like, oh, like what? Yeah, like because the sibling, there was a whole, it was very kind of, I think, minor in it, where the sibling is just like, oh, you can't think about it, it's just too complicated for you to know. And then it goes back to Navani's position. She's like, oh, I know what that is doing.
This.
Exactly, and she's just like, oh, if we release this here and we turn these on here and we get this.
So does that mean that the last person the sibling bonded with was a big idiot?
Probably. No. If she waited for somebody so long to get somebody that perfectly matched her, then yes.
Yeah. I think that those that fall behind. They're just making those advances. The last bondsmith made that stuff, and that was cutting edge technology.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
Yeah. Well, and it's like now, I think what's going to happen is they're going to just go leaps and bounds, because it's like Navani is going to be able to actually do the same thing in terms of creating Fabrials, but it's going to be with the actual agreement of the Spren, and I think that's going to make it stronger. And then but on top of that, we can also put the physical stuff like aluminum on this side, and like
just combine the two knowledges.
Changing these two polar axes between the Spren, like that type of stuff is still going to be available, but on a more powerful level, because the Spren are actually choosing to do that.
Now, thank goodness she did get the bond, That was a hard persuasion for both of them because they were both dying thanks to the fact that Moash had to put a knife deep into Navani. Yeah, threw a knife deep into Navani. I'm going to save some of the Moash conversation for the Kaladin /Tef/ that conversation.
All right, but really quick.
Yo.
I know this is going to be an unpopular opinion.
Okay.
But I do have to say that I finally don't like Moash.
Because he stabbed Navani.
We are going to have to talk a little bit about Moash because I do think that his future is unique.
We
got some
conversations. I think it's we'll talk about it.
Reasons, but we'll get there. So now that we're migrating on from Rabinoids and
flavonoids and
Raboniel and Navani, we could go to and the sibling, who, by the way, loved Relaine but didn't bond him because of time.
Not that loved. I think she was just like, fine, send him to me. He seems acceptable.
I don't want to. Yeah.
Well, I was actually a little confused about that because I thought that that's what was going to happen, and I got so excited because I'm like, oh yeah, dude, somebody's going to bond Relaine.
Well, he finally got in the area, but the timing wasn't right.
Right.
And,
but he ended up bonding something else. Where the fuck did that come from? What did I miss?
The Kremling that was following them that they thought was a void
bringer
or whatever was actually a spren that was.
It was one of
Renarin's sibling friends.
Okay.
I thought it was one of Timber's.
No, it was what Jeff said.
Yeah, it was one of Renarin's. So earlier, Renarin, in the very beginning of the book, Renarin actually talks to some spren and says, like, I have a perfect idea for you, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then it just goes away. But the whole book, Relaine is being followed by a Kremling that he's sure is a void spren.
Spying on him
from Odium's side, which is actually one of the corrupted spren that what would they be? Truth Watchers?
Corrupted Truth Watchers.
Yeah. Is it Truth Watcher or Truth Seer? I forget.
Truth Watcher.
Truth Watcher. Anyway, corrupted Truth Watcher
Drinkbringer.
Corrupted Drinkbringer spread that bonded Renarin, but the type of spread that bonded Renarin bonded Relaine. And so that's why at the end, the spren were like, no, he's spoken for. And we just found out the whole time that...
Like a jealous girlfriend.
Yeah.
So here's the question now, is now he another blind spot?
That's my human.
He is, absolutely.
Will he be, and everyone who joined? Because that almost feels like naturally you'd be like, we want as many of these as we can. And you spread them around every important person to be like watchers or like
blind spots.
Because they're just blind spots, right?
And they could see the future, which is amazing. So like not only you're a blind spot to the gods to screw with them, but you are now also able to see the potential futures,
not factual.
But
futures.
now you can impact that, knowing that that's what the gods are going to be acting on. So I mean, that's a humongous benefit. Now it's going to be really interesting to see how Relaine decides to use that.
But well, I'm really excited.
One thing too, though, is do we have to look at the next book and say, is Sajanat's like betrayal? Like, is it out in the open? Is there no more?
Dude, her role, she definitely has her own. No. Well, she may still be playing with Odium, but like in my opinion, has her own.
But is she outed at this point?
Does Odium know?
No, because
that's a good question.
The broken. Well, that's the thing though. The broken gemstones with her children in it. That we know brought the old Odium. Yeah. So does the new Odium know that, okay, this was a deception by her?
Doesn't Taravangian talk to Drawnot, and that's how she's like, and he thought it was a trap that Odium sent for him by betraying him.
Yeah.
So he kind of knows that she's already playing.
Yeah, so how does this work?
Brandon Sanderson had an amazing thing that he commented on, and somebody asked him about many relationships that had to do with the old Odium with people, and this was really around Moash. Like, how is this new Odium going to change the relation? And Brett and I were talking about this, and And Brandon Sanderson said, "Oh, Taravangian will have many new relationships with many current and new individuals as the new Odium. So he will absolutely confirmed approach being Odium differently."
Should we talk about Moash
I'm assuming
right now?
he's gonna. I almost want to make this a bet that he's gonna revive not the pyramid scheme, but what's that? What is this old group called?
The pyramid scheme.
Oh,
Yeah.
the
The Honor Bloods.
No, not the Ghost Blood.
book,
Blood.
something of the book. The
the
Bloods of
order.
the-
The damn it.
What
What was
look
his
this up.
damned book called?
Who's?
the diagram?
Taravangians. The diagram.
Oh, the diagram.
I feel that he's gonna revive the diagram, and that's gonna be his organization.
That'd be twisted.
See, you think he wouldn't? He's a god now. He doesn't need no organization.
Yeah.
That'd be his religion.
He's got to
does
play
need-
by the god rules now.
He needs people to carry out his will,
Yeah.
and those people who were devoted to Taravangian, now that he's become Odium, they'll be like he can see everything.
His diagram just
Yeah.
got tenfold bigger.
Exactly.
Like even more. But the whole
I have a
diagram was
feeling-
against Odium.
But the
Yeah.
was a
Well,
That's the thing
all
he
he has to
can't
do is
revive.
look at it in a mirror.
Yeah.
So is there a Brett bet on the table right now?
Oh, if you guys want to say that he resurrects the diagram group,
Before book 10.
5.
Before book 5?
In book 5.
Because I'm assuming
Next book.
the next book. But
I have a feeling
yeah.
that we were set up with Taravangian as our opponent for the next 6 books.
Really?
Yeah.
but, yeah,
That's what it felt like.
I would
mean,
say they
I don't wanna
might
get too-
mention it right away, Hitman, unless
Yeah.
Taravangian's for some reason not in the next book at all, or we don't get his POV at all. I would be inclined to think that he is gonna have his diagram back right away as soon as we get his a first person narrated
But
chapter.
what
from
if,
him.
what if he starts a new diagram? Because why would he just revive the old diagram?
Well,
No,
it's
the
reviving
group.
the group.
the group.
The
group.
people that he
What-
had.
who's the group?
His group was the people that he assembled
From
around
Cabranth,
his
all
book.
the women. It was like the woman and
There was a lot of people.
the
Dustbringer.
guy.
Oh, he's
head
gonna
people
call
on
his
his-
people back to task.
But they'll have
they're
a
gonna
new
become
book.
the new.
The
new
new
crew.
diagram group.
Physical
Gotcha.
execution arm of the new Odium.
Yeah, so in the next 6 books, I guess.
Just to make the odds of me winning better.
I kind of forgot the next book's gonna be over 10 days.
I honestly
Yeah.
think though Taravangian
so.
could potentially be the enemy over the next 6
Do you
books.
think I was thinking that granted I don't know how
Or he could just die.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think he may that what we're gonna get into is
Hoodwink,
that this
cultivation's
was
your real enemy.
Well, no, I think this was still Cultivation's plan, and Cultivation knew beforehand that Taravangian would get into this, and he would go against her, and she's already got contingency plans set up to rein him back in line after he does his little willy-nilly,
Yeah.
I'm gonna rebel against Cultivation for a bit.
I also felt that they were gonna put what they did in Mistborn. Well, they're gonna kill the 2 guys in the same spot and then combine them into
Combine
one
them.
person.
I actually kept thinking that what they were gonna do is they were gonna find, because honor, they said you can't destroy the
You can't. The power.
actual power. So I kept
lives
thinking
in the hearts of
that
men.
somehow honors all of his power was gonna coalesce and get pulled in with Odium. That was my theory, is somehow the end of it is gonna be a combination of Odium and honor.
Could be. And I actually like that. I was thinking the same thing myself.
Or
but
the rebirth of the god honor. Because at some point, I think that power is out there, and someone's gonna find the way of pulling it all together back into a genre.
in my opinion, it would be such a shame. Like, I could see it being Dalinar. We even talked about it earlier on in the, in the other books. We had, like, would Dalinar maybe pull Honor essentially back? And I used to think, like, oh, that would be a potential. But, like, now I'm like, I would be sad. I would be sad if that happened, because he finally has, like, a happy life with a grandson. And
Oh,
Dalinar.
Dalinar.
That happy life's not sticking. No.
Wait, we have to finish Brett's bet. All right,
Well, I'm
Ben's
not
bet
saying
now.
if you guys agree or disagree. But it never
Okay.
released.
So wait, let's be specific about it so that we can move to the next one. So it is the diagram will be reformed in book 5.
Hold on, really quick, because this isn't a Brett bet, and since it's on topic, here's my Hail Mary non-Brett bet. This is just my guess. All right.
Mole's gonna sneeze.
Dalinar in the next book is gonna lose the champion. He's gonna lose the battle.
That means
he's
he
gonna
dies.
become Odium's freaking dude.
Yeah.
Right? And then in book 10, he is going to somehow overcome it and go against Odium and become Honor that way. Because something that he did goes against the oath pact that he made with Odium, and then Honor was like, you act honorably, even though you thought you would die. That's what's gonna happen. Oh, sorry, spoiler alert. Because it's what's happening. Anyway, what's the Brett bet?
All right. That's great, Hail Mary. It's on record.
That's not gonna happen.
Oh.
I don't know why you would say that, Jeff.
So the bet is, we'll make it simple that
No, actually,
Odium,
do think
the new Odium, resurrects his diagram group to further his new goals.
Execution arm?
Yes, of course.
All right.
Jeff. Oh.
I'm gonna say no, even though I think it's probably yes.
Who?
I agree with Andrew. It could be like the very first
I'm
POV
trying to
chapter
think, though,
of anyone
who were
from the
his-
diagram.
Who were his...
He's got a
It was
whole
like
army of
woman
people.
and a guy, and I
No,
remember
there's
they
a
were
whole
like,
there's a whole
We
army
only know a
of people.
small section,
We only
and
know a
that
little
was his advisors.
Yeah.
Okay.
Were all part of the group.
But he had this whole like they made this thing of him crying
Greaves
and like sending him
was
away.
even
Yeah.
part of the diagram.
Yeah, I'm trying to think
I was
of
there for that
exact
event,
people. All right, Josh.
What, me?
Yeah. Oh, you want to go last?
Yeah.
Manny.
I'm gonna say no.
No.
Oh man, I'm on Manny's team. We're fucked.
Andrew.
I'm gonna say yes.
Just
I think
Manny
that
Ooh.
Taravangian, even as Odin, is in such a crazed state of mind that he's gonna fall back on some of his old habits.
Yeah.
I love how Andrew calls Odium Odin.
Odin.
Because that's basically what he is.
It was I don't know. It is weird to. The thing that I think is strange is that Taravangian seems, as Odium, he seems like he's smarter than what was his name? The
That is
original
only
one.
that is only
Or
from
no,
his
Rays.
own
Rays.
But that is only from his own POV.
No, but
Which means he could be.
the reason that I think that is because Wit had a complete handle on Rays.
Oh,
But
yeah.
But that could also just be pattern recognition. He's been dealing with Rays for so long that he's like,
he
I know
also-
his patterns.
But did recognize that it wasn't Rays. And then he was able to stop that.
Yeah.
So the thing is, with the gods, they become, I feel like, spren-like.
Yeah.
Where the one thing is the passion, and Ruin's passion became hate, and he lost his like logical side. Well, Taravangian just started, and he can still balance the two sides of his logic and then all his emotions.
So it
with
wasn't
all
as
that.
predictable to Wit because his passions have changed.
Yeah.
That's what you think. That's a good theory.
Over time, you become more and more
of
like
that
the
aspect.
power
I
that
see.
you're. Yeah.
You're gonna want more.
So Josh is a yes on that.
Yeah, I totally feel like he still had enough of himself, and he's
more.
these plans, and he already has a group he built.
I'm gonna go
So he can
yes as
just-
well.
I love it. Yeah, I
To,
love
take
the
a
idea.
hold of and like come like. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm Odium now. I'm a god.
Yeah.
You're gonna follow me.
Yeah, I mean,
feel like
I
they would.
really think Taravangian as Odium with his little crew and Dalinar are gonna do a lot of damage.
I definitely only say no to like
Balance it
incite the other. Yeah, well, it's not that I don't think it's possible. It's that I think there's like kind of like two story branches that are possible, and just for fun, I'm kind of going with the other branch that I think is possible.
Because I think it's also possible that at the end of the 5th book, him and another god die.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's
And
what I was
they
gonna say.
combine-
That's the other branch.
They
like,
combine into a new god. Like a
Yeah.
another series. I don't want to.
we don't know.
Like,
There's just a part.
spoilers.
There's just a part of me that feels like the end of book 5 is going to be a really, really bad ending.
I don't feel like it's be terrible.
I feel like it's just gonna be like
'Cause
almost. I think they're gonna go Star Wars mode where it's like Oh,
Empire Strikes Back
we're on a downside, and now the next 5 have to bring it back. But
yeah, I almost feel like it could be like book 5 ends with Odium beating Cultivation, and it's just like now there are 2 shards dead, and the next 5 are like, how do we escape or somehow contain Odium for now, type thing.
It is interesting because it has come out into the open that like Wit was really trying more than anything to make sure that Odium was contained
To
at the
the
minimum.
system.
Because there's a bigger picture going on.
At this point, the way it was explained, he is still contained by the pact, because he's like, I still have to follow this. I'm still constrained by these rules. He's like, oh, I do see ways around it to win, but even him winning isn't gonna get him out of the system.
Yeah.
That's actually why I get nervous about every time Dalinar's like, I want to start a new oath pact. I'm like, stop!
dude,
You don't know that oath pact might have been so much different than we think it could have been.
Here's another thing
Let's
that I
not
wonder
do a new
about.
one.
Do we even know that the deal still transfers over to Taravangian as Odium?
It does.
It does. He said,
We know for sure.
I'm still
Okay.
restrained by
Pretty
these.
sure
Yeah.
it does.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, because I think he said something. Was it when he was talking about Wit? He's like, I would act out, but I can't because I'm still bound by these rules.
Well,
Yeah.
he
It
was
was in the
bound
Wit
by.
chapter.
I think you're talking about something else. When you talking about when he erases memory.
No, he was like, oh, maybe it was when he was erasing his memory, because I thought it was like, oh, I could do this, but I'm still bound by those rules. So he's like, but this isn't breaking the rules, because he
Yeah.
talks about erasing Wit's memory.
'Cause it didn't
like,
harm
he can't
him.
act against Wit.
Yeah.
But changing those memories didn't harm him. He's like, because he's like, oh, it doesn't
why
work right
didn't
now.
Odium do that before then?
That's the
like I said, like Odium
supposed
became
weakness.
so
Predictable.
not predictable, but like so
Engulfed.
entwined with his own passions that he lost his logical side. And it was just like a Spren, just a super powerful.
All about
that
hate and like,
and the passions and like mostly hate though. Well, Taravangian has his genius
He's still genius.
and he has his passions, and he can separate them still, and he can see.
For now.
which is what cultivation
How they,
was like. This will save you, but it's maybe turning into like, oh, this is what makes you more dangerous.
Dude, what if that fucking cultivation thing continued on while he's Odium, and Odium just has really dumb days? No, you're a stupid face, Dalinar.
What you mean? I agree to deal. Okay. So, wow, that was a lot. So, who's next? Let's do Kaladin. Yeah, we have to do the
I
big
would
one.
say really, Kaladin is the only one that's really left.
Yeah.
It kind of is.
Kaladin and all his.
No,
All the
I
surrounding
think
stories.
even though we
Taft.
touched on it, I do think we need to talk about Wit a little bit.
We should
gotta
talk about Wit.
Did
Taft.
correct me, guys, if you
I
guys
wanna
covered
talk
this
about
in the
Moash.
last episode, but did you guys cover Shallan and Vale being absorbed and her betrayal of Mraize in the last one?
We did.
Yeah.
Okay,
and-
that was
The
the last
betrayal
one.
was in
Okay.
this one. The merger was in the last
yeah,
one.
the merger
Okay.
was in the last one. So we
You
talked-
would have known the answer to that if you were here, Captain.
Right, right. Well, I was on a Fire Moss
I'm
binge.
just
What can I say?
kidding.
No, but actually, this is really good. So what we should do is let's just tidy up the betrayal of the Ghostbloods, and then Cap could add in any, Shallan rhetoric that he wants, and then let's go directly into Kaladin, because Kaladin does Moash, Teft, and all of the above, kind of.
Yeah.
Andrew,
So-
Andrew, if there's anything in the last section that
I'm
you
also
did
gonna
want to
pee.
talk about, though, that you felt like was really
Keep that to
important,
yourself.
feel free to bring it up.
Cool, right on. Okay, so you guys already covered Vale being absorbed then?
Yeah.
Oh,
What,
man.
what were your views on that?
I want to do a drink to Vale. Did you do it in the last episode?
We're always down for a drink to somebody.
Yeah, I'm hoping that she'll pop out of the personality merger at some point, but I don't know if that's.
I think that's over.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
she's
think it's
now
over.
Shallan with all
Yeah.
of it's Shallan, a better Shallan that actually has all
Yeah.
that stuff.
all of
Which
the strengths of Vale.
I almost wish that I felt like and maybe this was by design, but I feel that Radiant was more of the
like the character that we got less time with out of her three personalities. Yeah. So I'm surprised that they got rid of Vale first instead of get rid of Radiant first and then Vale being that final merger.
Well, I feel like Vale was more kind of...
She represented...
I felt like she was a little bit more of a destructive mindset, right?
I thought she was more important than
Radiant.
Yeah.
But I feel like Vale represents the... Because Vale could hide and could subterfuge and was like more like a thief. So Vale was the personality we're finding out that was the one that was hiding all of the stuff that... Because even Radiant was like, Vale, what do you know? And because Vale was the one that knew that she had killed her previous spren. And like Vale was the part of her that had all these like secrets. So kind of like breaking through that. Whereas Radiant was developed not later, but Radiant was like, as a response to I need to be responsible and look
to be a Radiant.
Powerful.
Like, how do I be a Radiant?
Whereas Vale was like, I'm falling apart. I need to create something that lets me live, which was essentially all those secrets that she couldn't keep addressing or she couldn't look at. So it was very interesting, and I think that that was a awesome scene.
It was.
Yeah.
There was one point where they did mention, unfortunately I was like working while I was listening to it, so I'm not sure how significant it is, but they did mention Shallan like consciously like commented on the fact that she had 2 shard blades or that she had 2 sprens or something like that.
A very small part. And she's like, oh, like she still had the old shard blade apparently.
Yeah.
But she's never... We don't know if she summoned it ever, or it's always been patterned.
Oh, really? Because, if she killed it, that Spren blade is still summonable somehow by someone, right?
Well, and apparently.
Yeah.
So, but she like, has it somewhere, right?
Well,
that could be the blade that's in the dad's safe or whatever that we...
Oh, that's true. That's true,
and it could also be, because we got hints, remember? 9 heartbeats.
Yeah.
Because if it's dead, it needs the heartbeats to be pulled up versus...
But it doesn't really need that.
Yeah, that we found out at some point that that's more a perception of needing 9 heartbeats, right?
No, I think that was
the
reality for summoning the dead.
The dead ones?
Blind eyes.
No,
dead
we
eyes.
found out that was just a perception thing. It wasn't real.
I don't remember.
But we might be mistaken, Manny, where we thought that was like overall, but maybe it's a perception based off the new like bonded shard blades because that's how the dead eyes work.
What do you mean, Manny?
Possibly.
When did we find that out?
Blind eyes.
I think it was in book 2 or whenever Syl became a blade.
Was I right?
They talk about how they thought that he had to wait 10 heartbeats in order to summon Syl, and she's like, no, you don't have to wait anything.
But that's because she's alive.
Yeah, because she was alive and she was bonded to him. I don't think it's because it was a dead eye. I think it's different.
Yeah, I think what we did is we heard that and then we traversed that to meaning also dead eyes don't need that amount of time. But I think it might be that the dead eyes do need 9 heartbeats, but
10.
Yeah, or 10.
Yeah.
So as we found out via commentary, and also apparently we just missed a ton of shit that I clearly cannot pay attention to in the books, but the bonding of... Well, we got like some really, really good commentary that like let us know that the bonding of a specific spren, even after Honor died, they call it the false desolation. When, I forget the name of the spren, but they bonded a spren that changed all of Roshar, which actually allowed the Deadeyes to even come to be, because it changed how spren can interact with Roshar itself. It's like kind of a crazy thing. They hint at it a lot. And it wasn't until I
thought it was one of the unmade.
It is one of the unmade.
But that was the one that... No, that's the one that all the listeners
the singers
were giving them forms of power because they were all tied to the one... But that wasn't anything to do with Spren.
It did have a lot to do with Spren. So what happened is Odium was not actually involved in that desolation whatsoever. That Unmade acted on its own, and started to modify Spren to give the forms of power. And they led what they called the false desolation against the people of Roshar, where the people were advanced enough at that time. It's like 2,000. I think 4,000 years ago was the Heralds abandoning. 2,000 years ago or so.
No, it had to be before that.
Because the 4,000 was the last desolation.
Yeah. 4,000 was the last desolation. This is called the false desolation. It's not a real desolation. But Odium wasn't involved.
The humans wouldn't have realized it. So I think that was had to be before.
Wait, no. I'm not. Maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're saying exactly.
But how would the humans know it's a false desolation?
They only do now because the information.
But the humans are the one who say the last desolation was 4,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Yes, but there is a false desolation, in which case they bonded.
That's true. They would have called the false desolation the last desolation then, because they wouldn't have known.
This is what
recently.
I'm saying. Like this is the stuff that I don't know how we missed. It's like all there. But like bullet by bullet, and then the false desolation was when we captured that Spren. So it was like 2,000 years ago, and it aligns up with the Recreants, the
Recreants was 4,506 years ago.
No. That was 2,000 years ago.
No.
Where they abandoned the shards.
Yeah, the Recreants was.
That was at the last.
No, that was the last desolation. Was 4,000. Listen to me.
It's okay, Jeff.
You don't want to be you don't want to get me on this one. It's all in the comments, which I've had to respond to vigorously.
But we could be misremembering the comments.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I do. Jeff has a better memory than me, so.
So anyway, 4,700, whatever it is, it was the last desolation. It was like 2,000 or so years ago that the Recreants happened. That happened at a time just after we had captured the Spren in the false desolation, and that changed all of Roshar and messed up the rhythms of Roshar. So what I'm trying to get at here is that there is so much more going on that we can't be sure in some ways how the impact of the magic, like of Roshar, is happening.
So the last desolation was 4,500 years ago.
You're definitely right, Jeff.
Yeah.
You're definitely right about the last desolation.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't.
The Recreants was 2,000 years ago. It was in the middle.
That could be right, but I don't think there was a false desolation in between.
The false desolation occurred around the same time as the Recreants, about 2,000 years prior.
Recreants, not recreation.
Recreants, yeah. About 2,000 years prior to the present day, or 2,500 years after
Aharietium.
The last desolation.
The last desolation.
So it was after.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly what I was saying.
Right.
that's when the Spren were turned into dull form.
Yeah, and then
not Spren. The singers are listening.
Yeah, but it comes down to the Deadeyes, right? Because apparently the Deadeyes didn't exist before we trapped that Spren. Yeah. And so they didn't know exactly what they were getting into when they were like, we're going to break this.
The Deadeyes existed after the Recreants happened.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. But also, before that, when the bond of human and Spren was broken, it may not have resulted in a Deadeyes. That's what they've said through this book. That's what's indicated. Yeah. The capturing of that Spren, that massive Spren that was part Odium, or Unmade, essentially, but was so critical to Roshar, we don't know exactly what it did when we captured it. It started the whole
that probably
did that work retroactively? Did
it did not work.
So only Deadeyes after that point.
But that probably leads to some of the reason why I think it was in the headers of one of the chapters, and I think it was Sazed, when he was talking about how he's like, this is why you guys have to release the one Spren caught the one that was caught.
And he said, you gotta release it.
He's like,
You have to release it.
He's like, unlike the heralds, these Spren will never die, which is why you have to release the one that was captured. Whereas like the heralds that got captured in the shard,
they'll fade away.
They just fade away and they die. But he literally, and we would think Sazed's a good guy, would be like
literally
Sazed, he's a good guy.
So you believe him. He was the one, I think it was his chapter that said, this is why you have to go back and release that Spren.
I agree.
Yeah.
Sorry, I came in the middle of that and I just jumbled a bunch of commentary.
You ruined
it
it all.
I only know that thanks to the great comments left on our page.
By
so thank you.
Ashlyn and Anomalia and a few others.
There's some like Dan and some other guy that loves Manny.
Douchebag 853.
That guy's awesome, by the way.
Douchebag's
that guy's amazing. Douchebag is amazing. He's amazing.
He must live in Rokar.
Do we go on to Kaladin then?
Yes, I think so. This episode went a little bit longer than we wanted, so we're going to split this into 2 motherfucking episodes.
Ended up going 3 hours.
Cheers.
Cheers. To the next part.